a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. One of the perks, if you want to call it that, of getting older is repeating yourself is perfectly acceptable. Now, I'm saying this because I'm going to repeat myself. The reason why I love doing this, I get to meet the most interesting and talented people. When they share their story or their journey, it's like a gift of pure magic to me. Now, that being said, my guest today is a multi-talented Mark Lanoue. Welcome to the show, Mark.
How are you? I appreciate that introduction. The multi-talented, multi-personality too, maybe.
Just reading through your bio, and it's like, wow. But I'm going to start with the last sentence you wrote, your philosophical statement. Reality was once the tapestry of the dreamer. Explain that, please.
Sure. So I had an interesting upbringing, to say the least, and I moved around a lot. I was born in Central Jersey. My father had us moving around a lot because he was involved with the Colombo crime family at the time. So moved around quite a bit. So at the time, I was quite the dreamer, and I think at this point, I'm probably still quite the dreamer. That's what keeps me, moving and keeps me writing. And so anyway, the statement is that whether you're talking about God, faith, whatever the case may be, there's always the dream, and then you have to move on that dream for it to become reality. But reality was once first the tapestry of the dreamer, that person that was putting together something to fulfill that dream. And a lot of times it's to fulfill that dream for many people, not just yourself. So that's what that whole thing means. I carry that around as my philosophical statement. So
we are fellow dreamers. I've always been a dreamer. And like you said, if you don't dream, you don't have any aspirations to move ahead in your life, right?
That's right. Exactly.
So now I know, as you said, you were born in New Jersey and you moved around quite a bit. At some point, you ended up in Mississippi.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, did your music career start in New Jersey or in Mississippi?
So first, I started as a saxophone player in New Jersey. I played tenor sax, and when we moved down to Mississippi, and that move to Mississippi had a lot to do with my father's past life. He was murdered when I was 10. So the fact is that after all that happened, my mother saw that we needed a change. We were supposed to be in the witness protection program going to California, but when he died, that all went the other way. So we ended up in Mississippi, and so I continued to play tenor sax, and I was part of the Long Beach Middle School and Long Beach High School marching and concert band, and we were actually in the top 5 in the United States as a marching and concert band. We were pretty bad to the bone as a unit back then. So that's where my music started. But then I heard a guitarist by the name of Randy Rhoads, who was playing with Ozzy Osbourne, and I was blown away by him. And so I picked up the guitar, and I had a couple fellow high school students that played guitar, and I found that I was a natural at it. So after 6 months, I made some people mad because I was blowing away some of the people that were actually teaching me. And then so I didn't find my voice in singing till much, much later, but that's where it all started. And then I ended up moving to New Jersey and pushing my career further from there, because there just wasn't really a whole lot as far as career movement in Mississippi when it came to being in a rock band. So,
but the move itself must have been like quite a change from New Jersey to Mississippi, right?
In 1981, it was a huge change because Mississippi's a lot different now than it was then. I was the Yankee. I was coming down to the South, baby. I was in the Bible Belt. So the Bible Belt part didn't bother me because I've always had faith. I was raised in a church. So, but it was funny to be called a Yankee, so.
When you mentioned the Bible Belt, like one of the things you said that was always a constant in your life was the church and your grandmother, right?
That's right. My grandmother was the rock. She's so my grandparents were spectacular. My grandmother was a World War II nurse. Before everything happened before World War II, she was actually a blue blood in Holland. Their family had lots of money, and they had, but after the war started, all that went south, obviously. And my grandfather was Indonesian, Chinese, and Dutch. He was in Indonesia, then the Dutch West Indies, and
Right.
he was part of the underground and was actually brought into a concentration camp in Japan and was actually tortured. And he and my grandmother came together during the war, and then 6 children later, they came to the United States. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. You certainly have some really fascinating and interesting ancestors and relatives and whatever, right? Wow.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So now let's talk about, like, I just want to talk about everything, but it's, we're just
Only has so much time, right?
exactly. Let's talk about like you got connected to bands, and you've performed, or you've met many well-known band members of different bands, right? So let's talk about some of that.
Sure. Well, a lot of that happened not just from circumstance, but the fact is that I can talk to a tree, right? So I get along. I get along with everybody. My wife always says that she'll see me walk into a convenience store or on travel, and she knows that person can't speak any English, but I'm in there for 20 minutes having a conversation with somebody who probably can't even understand me. So yeah, but it's that's funny. But so yeah, up there I ended up meeting a lot of really excellent musicians. So I ended up I had my band up there, which was Sentinel. We were in the same, management company as Trickster and, a number of the other bands that were in that area at the time. So we, played a lot of the club circuit up there.
Right.
And then I ended up working with a vocalist. Oh man, what a voice he had. His name was Dean Fasano, Italian guy from New Jersey. And the funny story is there was a drummer who was really good friends with Trickster and happened to be friends with this Dean Fasano. And Dean was sang for the first on the first Prophet album up there. He was involved with Phantom's Opera. He sang. He was the first singer for Bonham. He really sang. He was in a band with Richie Sambora before Bon Jovi. It was called Mercy, and then later called Message. They toured with Joe Cocker back in the day. But so anyway, Dean introduced me to a bunch of people, and I also ended up meeting a lot of people in the area as well, recording in one of the famous studios there called, it was in West Orange, New Jersey. It was the House of Music. Ended up recording there, recorded in Elmwood Park at another studio, Panetta Studios. And just toured around, and I had some interest from a Guitar Hero label that they were looking at me maybe joining that label. But the fact of the matter is, it was just a great community, lots of musicians and people to meet, and it was just really a great experience. So.
Right, yeah. Now, at some point, you met and married your now wife, Lisa.
That's right. That's right. She put up with me then, and took her a while to come around, and then she finally said okay, and then she's been putting up with me for that all this other time. But yeah, I met her in Mississippi. She was my high school sweetheart. Actually, we'd waited a long time before we got married, but she was really pinnacle in supporting me and my music, and especially in the early days as well when we were in Florida and touring. So we moved from Mississippi to Florida in 1992, and she ended up getting a job and ended up ultimately managing the apartment complex where we lived. So she supported me while I went on the road. I was in a band with, so the singer now, Carl Senton's really talented guy. He was with Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. He was with the guitar player from UFO, Paul Chapman. And he was in a band originally in the UK called Persian Risk, which had the guitar player who went on to Motorhead, Phil Campbell. And so he was in Florida, and I ended up auditioning for that band, and it became Persian Risk USA. He now sings for Nazareth.
Okay.
But we were looked at by 5 labels. We went through 2 showcases with Atlantic, and Sony was going to sign us, Sony International. At the time, Sony International was really big.
Right.
But then we had management problems. It all fell apart, unfortunately, like a lot of other bands. So,
Yeah,
but it was a great experience, though.
yeah, for sure. Oh, what style of music do you perform?
Rock. I call myself somewhat of a multi-genre kind of guy. I like all kinds of music. I'm that guy that'll go to a concert and the band will totally blow, but I go, man, but that bass player, kind of analytical from that perspective. But so I've done everything from rock to metal to, light rock to pop. I like everything. So yeah, my vocal teacher there actually taught Janie Lane from Warrant, and he taught a couple of Backstreet Boys, and he taught pretty much most of Florida. So,
So where does your music career stand now?
So I have two bands. One's on hiatus right now, and the band's name is Syxx. It's an interesting band because our first album, the debut album, came out in 2017. It was called Tall Dark Secrets, and that had the bass player who played with Jimmy Page. He was in The Firm, called his Tony the Fretless Monster Franklin. He played with Blue Murder with John Sykes from Whitesnake, and he played on my first album. And then I had my guitar player, my keyboard player, and my drummer. My drummer actually is in my new band. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But so Rory Fashion was drummer on Syxx. My guitar player was from King Cobra, XYZ. His name is J.K. Northrup, really talented guy. And then there's Eric Ragno, who played with the Babies. And I always said, everybody wants him to play on their stuff. I always said God probably called him up to play on some of his stuff at one point. And my new bass player played with Ronnie Montrose and King Cobra. His name is Larry Hart. So anyway, the first album was interesting because it had a bunch of guests on there. So some of my friends from New Jersey, like Steve Brown from Trickster and Def Leppard, played on there, and Bill Leverty from Firehouse played on there, and there was a bunch of other people that kind of I wanted to see it kind of like a fun debut album. And then so we had 3 albums. The second was The Alternate Me in 2019, and in 2021 we had Ghost of My Father's Past, which was submitted for the Grammys. It didn't get nominated, but it was submitted. We're submitted for a Merit Award this year for a social change song. And then the band I'm in now is called Kick the Wicked. And it's the drummer from Syxx, but my other bandmate Scott Campbell is amazingly talented. He does the production, he plays bass, he plays guitar, he plays keys. He's just a renaissance guy in music, and he's just really, really talented. He and I swap off on guitars. I do all the lead vocals, but he does a lot of background vocals with me on stuff. But yeah, Kick the Wicked is really awesome. It's a change from Syxx, is more progressive, kind of melodic rock. This stuff is a little bit more modern, but we kind of move around a little bit. We go from heavy to light to pop to alternative, kind of movement. So
now, I believe you're also a songwriter. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I'm a songwriter. I sing, I play guitar. So we also have a tribute group too, which they can find on the internet, which is, we called it Farmer Bob during the lockdown in 2020. We wanted to do something fun for all the fans. So we started doing, everything from Triumph to the Bee Gees to, metal to rock. And we have like 40 something tributes now on YouTube. Farmer Bob. They'll probably find some other people called Farmer Bob that do like agriculture, but Farmer Bob Rock, if they put all that in there, they'll find us. But we do all kinds of stuff. It's really fun. So, and we still do it. We're working on a Zebra tune and Meatloaf right now. So.
I think that's so awesome. One of the reasons why I mentioned that you were multi-talented is because the other side of your life, the non-musical side of your life is like, oh my gosh, working for NASA, right? And numerous inventions that patented, and it's just like, I don't even know where to start. There's so much of it. But I wanted this one to focus because I figured I'm going to have you back, because then we can explore that other side, But this one I wanted to basically focus on your music career.
Right. One side of my Gemini, this over here. One side of my Gemini id, right? Yeah.
Yes. No, I know it's another thing you said. Now, where am I going to look for that one? You said you have a certain born with this intuitiveness, right?
Yes. Is
that the word I want?
Yes. So you're talking about my sensitivity to spirit, or
yes, absolutely. Yeah, because I find that is also very fascinating. Because again, that's something I can connect to as well. So I get that.
Sure.
Right, and I know that a lot of people just sort of their eyes glaze over sometimes when you talk.
Well, it's like anything, right? So when you have faith in God, not because you're trying to point somebody at a bone that's on the earth, which is part of archaeology. It's just because you have faith and whether somebody else believes or not, that's their perspective. And I can still go have a drink with them or hang out and go to dinner. That's cool. Whatever your part of life is, as long as it's a handshake and not the blade, we're good, right? So, but yeah, it's been like that since I was a child. When I was really little, I had some really horrible dreams even that were very, very unpleasant. But over time, like anything, I learned to shut it down. It's kind of like a method where you learn to close it out when you want to close it out. So, yeah, absolutely.
You have to.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's been so many bands mentioned and names mentioned and whatever. If somebody wanted to find, like now, if they wanted to go into SoundCloud or oh my gosh, I've just
Spotify, Apple, we're on everything. So if they go on, probably the quickest way is to just go on Google and type in Lanoue and music, and it'll probably pop up because we have Kick the Wicked, Fiction Syxx. We have everything. We have websites. You can go to kickthewicked.com. You can go to fictionsyxx.com. You can, and we're on all the digital platforms. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because I'm gonna I listen to Spotify at night because I have that ringing in my ears, right? So it's always on. So I'm gonna look for some of your stuff and add it to my Spotify list.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You might also like, we have the song that's submitted for, and hopefully, God willing, we have a song that the Grammys are going to call out a special merit award called the Social Change Merit Award. And it's for songs that have an impact on social perspective. And so there's a song that I wrote with my bandmates, J.K. Northrup and Eric Ragno from Fiction Syxx, and it's called Innocence. And it's a song about the innocence in children that we lose over time. But if we go back and look at and, confront that innocence again and realize where we started, we might be a bit better off, because we think we know it all. But really, at the end of the day, especially when I was working at NASA and I work with all the technology, which we'll talk about another time, you realize just how shallow we really don't know a whole lot. Even the most brilliant person, there's just so much out there, and to be so self-absorbed, we learn nothing. So, that's what that song is about. It's about going back and looking into the eyes of children, and finding that innocence there. So
I'm definitely going to look at that. Well, we'll end it there. Okay. But just stay on camera. I just want to talk to the audience for a minute. So, you listen to Mark Lanoue, and look for him again. Look for his music on SoundCloud, Spotify, all of those. If you listen to music, and you know where to find all the music songs and everything, right? And and let's just say somebody wants to get in touch with you. Is it best to look up your name, like Google you, or could they do it on?
Sure, Facebook? I'm on everything. So both on my music and technical side. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. You can find me. I'm that. Remember, I told you I'll talk to a tree, right? So
yes. They ever answer though? That's the question. I had a friend years ago. This would be in the 60s. He always talked to trees. So
the 60s. Huh? Yeah, I love the 60s was an interesting era. I was born on 6/6/66, so I made it all the more interesting, I guess.
Very good. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for just stay on camera, like I said. So thank you everybody for watching the show, and I hope you will subscribe and link. Do all of those nice things. Share is nice too, right? So thanks everybody for watching, and take care and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.